Hi there. So this month I want to talk a little bit about multiple offers. We saw a lot of multiple offer situations when we had the crazy few years of our COVID selling. And the last four offers that I've written over the last couple of weeks, I've been in multiple offer situations on all four, which is something that we haven't seen as much in this market. What that tells me is the good houses that are priced right, that are coming on the market, are selling fast and they're getting multiple offers. So they're selling very well. So I just want to take a few minutes to kind of share some thoughts and some education on how to handle a multiple offer situation. As a buyer, when you fall in love with a house and you think we want to think about this house, we want to have a second showing, we think we want to write an offer, and then your realtor calls and tells you, hey, there's more offers coming in on that house. If we're going to write an offer, we have to do it in the next couple of hours. That can be super frustrating as a buyer. And it makes you feel rushed, and you don't sometimes get that second or third showing. You don't get to do as much research on the house that you want. And so just wanted to take some time to talk about that. So if you were a buyer and you found yourself in a multiple offer situation, I think you got to ask yourself a couple of questions before you decide to write your offer. You might be in love with the house. Ask yourself, how in love are we with this house? And if you are absolutely in love with the house and you want that house, it's kind of the lottery saying, if you don't play, you can't win. So you're gonna have to write an offer and engage in this multiple offer situation to try to win the house. And so if you're like, we're all in, we want this house, we're gonna try, what you need to do, and this is what I always advise my clients, is you need to make your offer as clean as possible. And people will say to me, what do you mean by a clean offer? What I mean is you don't want to junk up the offer with a bunch of contingencies. You want to make the offer as seller friendly as you can. And then my job as your realtor, or your realtor's job, is to make sure that you're still protected in that contract. So that if something turns out to not be right, you are protected. So for example, a clean offer, everyone goes to price. We have to offer full price or above asking price. And that may be the case in a multiple offer situation. Recently I was in, a couple offers over the last couple weeks. We've offered the list price. We did not go over, but we made the other terms of our agreement very strong. And so you can offer list price, especially if the house has been on the market a day or two. You're probably going to have to offer list price or consider going over list price. But the other things that you can do to your offer to make it seller friendly are, again, no contingencies. So you're not going to be able to write subject to sale. You're not going to be able to say, I want to be able to sell my home and get proceeds from my home before closing on this one. That's just not going to work in a multiple offer situation. Other contingencies would be your inspection period. I always advise sellers to do an inspection. There are a couple of options with inspections. I would make your inspection period as short as possible for the seller. So normally we'll ask for a 10-day inspection period. And if I was in a multiple offer situation, I would ask for 5 or 7 business days for that inspection period. That's going to look a little bit better to the seller. You can also write your inspection to be for buyer knowledge only. And what that means is you have the right as a buyer to do an inspection if you uncover some major problem with the house, mechanical, structural, or safety issue. There is a caveat in that buyer knowledge only inspection option that you could cancel your purchase agreement and get your money back. So I always tell my sellers or my buyers, when we're writing an offer, you are in a contract and we have to abide by the contract. It's not a good practice to write offers and back out of offers. And I never advise anybody to do that. But there is a little bit of a safety loop in there. If you would find out that, say, the house has major foundation problems or something that we could not have discovered when we were looking at the house. So some other things that will help your offer is to show your financial strength in your offer. So put as much down on the house as you can. If you were planning to put 10% down and hold some money back, but you really have enough to put 20% down, you might want to consider putting 20% down. What that does is it shows the seller that you're financially strong and you have a better chance of your loan closing. Cash is not always king on multiple offers. Most people assume, oh, the cash offer is going to win. We were in a situation recently where my buyer they had an offer that was contingent on them getting a loan. The seller also had a cash offer, but the cash offer was a little bit less than full price, and we wrote a full price offer. So they ended up picking our offer and they passed over the cash price. So don't always assume that because you don't have cash, you're not going to win that. Some other things to think about is, and making it friendly for the seller, is the closing date. Sometimes the closing date is really important to the seller. And so I always contact the listing agent and say, what would the ideal closing date for the seller be? And if, as a buyer, if you can accommodate that date, that can help you win that offer. So it's a little bit of education about multiple offers. If you have any questions about anything real estate related, or whether you've ever been in a multiple offer situation, we'd love to answer those. And I hope you have a great rest of July. It's going to be August, and summer's going to wind down soon, and I don't like that. Have a great rest of the month.